What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cooldown podcast. Today, we're all in separate rooms, like every other podcast we've done, because we're in quarantine. Hopefully, you are in quarantine as well, and practicing social distancing and proper hygiene.
Unless you're watching this like 5 years in the future.
Then, well, hopefully, you're still practicing proper hygiene.
That is true.
But we hope you are not
in quarantine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But today, it's been a while, and quarantines are going on for a while, and we all have different jobs in different areas of the country. We're all on the eastern coast, at least, but we're all going to talk about how quarantine and the coronavirus has affected our kind of day-to-day lives, how it's affected our jobs, relationships, etc. So who wants to go first? We can bounce around.
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll start with like how it affected my job, I guess. So I don't necessarily have a quote unquote job.
I'm homeless and unemployed.
I work as a research assistant at the University of Buffalo.
Go Bulls.
But now, because of the coronavirus, the university has sent all of the students home. People aren't allowed to work in labs. The only thing we can do is just access whatever materials that they gave us, like through the computer, through like VPNs and stuff like that. So it became a little bit of a challenge right away. Like one of the benefits of being in a lab was that my advisor was right across the hall, or there were people right next to me that I could just ask a question if I was experiencing a problem. I could just run it easily by them. Where now, a lot of times, if I want to get a hold of somebody, they might be in meetings or they might be doing other things, and I have to set up my own meeting with these people. So it becomes a little bit more difficult to try to make that type of connection. Which is, I think that's probably the biggest con. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of pros. I think I work best when I have as much freedom as possible of when to work. I think that getting 8 hours in is not the difficult part. It's getting it in a condensed timeline. So as in like the 9 to 5 is harder in my eyes than like 8 hours spread out throughout the 24 hours. And I think that this has allowed me to take advantage of that and still get all the time that I need to work on the things I want to work on, and then properly spread it out. So in my work world, that's kind of how it's affected me and how I've had to change.
Yeah. How is it going because you're at home right now with the rest of your family. So like if I'm doing work, I can sit here in my room for 8 hours straight. No one's going to bother me. I don't have to, outside of like meetings online that I'm having, I don't have to interact with anyone. Sometimes I'll go out and talk with my roommates for a little bit, but otherwise no one's coming into my space to kind of like put a stop to my day. So like, how does that work with your whole family being around?
Right. So for everybody out there, I have 6 other family members. So I have obviously my 2 parents and then 4 other siblings. And it does get pretty difficult. We all have our own designated spot in the house where we work. But everybody's got different meetings and everybody's got tests and stuff like that requires people to be quiet at different points in the house. And my dad, he works for CVS, he's pretty high up and actually has been doing a lot of testing for the coronavirus, and has is constantly in meetings with like higher up people to try to get his way to figuring out this situation and dealing with government officials and stuff like that. So he's always on call. He's always working on all of that stuff. So that's where it's like kind of like tiptoey around here at times. But I think we do a good job of not distracting one another because we have designated spots. Like my spot is in one of the back rooms of my house. My one brother, he works in his room. My other brother works in his room. My little sister, she doesn't really have as much like class work right now because she's still like she's only a sophomore in college. So her work was mostly just online lectures that she could just sit anywhere and plug her headphones in. So for the most part, we're lucky because we have enough space to spread us all out in that way. But yeah, that's kind of how it's been. I don't find it to be too distracting in that way. But obviously, I think it's more distracting than a lab. Like I have obviously things I can play with. Like, I mean, you can see in the back, I have a piano right there I can mess around with, or like nobody's on my neck. Like my advisor's not in the room across the hall.
You can go on TikTok for 30 minutes and no one's gonna be like, Ryan,
exactly.
what are you doing?
Exactly. And if there were times where my advisor would walk in and, then you're like, oh, I don't know when he's going to walk in, so I'm not going to try to be distracted for too long. Even if you get distracted for like 5 minutes, you don't want those 5 minutes that you're distracted to be the 5 minutes he walks in for. So it's different in that way. But I still think that I'm very productive in this period. I'd even argue that I'm more productive because even though I don't work on this specific things like my research for the 8 designated hours, 9 to 5, I still get the 8 hours in. And I'm also more inclined to do other things on the computer or other things on like around my house that I see as like productive learning or productive growing in my personal like growth path. Outside of work, I guess, like to continue on that ideas, I've been trying to pick up other hobbies. I know a lot of people are getting into different hobbies. Like there's people who are trying to learn how to juggle, learn languages, read a bunch of books and stuff like that. I've kind of focused on just learning languages right now. I picked up 3 different classes in Duolingo. I was trying to learn French, Russian, and Japanese. French is probably the one that's going the best because I actually took a lot of classes of that in high school and I remember a lot.
Yeah.
But Russian and Japanese are very different because unlike the Romance languages, they have a totally separate alphabet and
just completely different.
Yeah, they're not based on,
structure,
they're not the same structure base.
And that kind of, it makes it so Duolingo is not going to get me to literacy or fluency alone with those. I think actually with French, I could get to fluency with just Duolingo. I've been messing around with it and getting a lot of things from there. I don't only use Duolingo. I listen to French podcasts and I go on like online and I go to different Wikipedia pages that I've probably been on before, like maybe like Pokemon ones or stuff like that. And I just read them in French because I'm like, I know what's going on here, but let me see if I could translate it in French. And that helps me, get that literacy, get the fluency and like kind of embed it in my everyday life.
Yeah, it's like in high school when they have you watch Finding Nemo in French.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like everyone's seen Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
That's also more because it's just like the teacher doesn't want to teach.
Yeah.
That's definitely more of the latter. But it is true. That's why they pick Finding Nemo. They don't pick like some random movie you never heard of.
Yeah.
But oh, you go.
Yeah, but I'll say like that's one of the hobbies. Obviously, I've got a ton of other things that I'm trying to pick up or I'm trying to do because in this time since I can't hang out with people, it becomes like, what do I do with my time? How do I spend it if I'm not going to be going and hanging out with my friends here, there, and that,
Yeah.
So
you can only sleep so much.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's basically how the quarantine's affected my life so far. I mean, there's probably other things, but those are the first things that popped in my head.
Yeah, I want to say 2 things about what you're talking about. One, about like your house. I think it's really like obviously a benefit that you have a big house. And also that everyone in your family is older.
Yeah.
Which makes like, hey, you go here. It's not, you don't have younger, like if this happened 10 years ago when you would be a middle teenager or you'd be like 13, 14. Like that's when it puts you in a weird spot of, then your youngest sister is very young. And I think that would really change the dynamic.
Yeah.
Even like at my house, my younger cousin is just like going crazy. Everyone's home. Tom and Sean are home.
Yeah.
Both of my brothers and like both of my parents
age gap.
Are trying to. My mom's trying to run our school district. My dad's trying to record classes and things like that. So I can only imagine what they're having to deal with this kid running around while they're trying to do their job.
Yeah. That, and I think that there's we got lucky in the sense that there's nobody in a super transitional period right now. Like Larissa, Scott, they were both like in the middle of college. They weren't at either the end or the beginning.
They're not seniors. High school senior, I think, is the hardest transition to be in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
College
I
senior,
agree.
I think at this point, like, yeah, if you lose your season, like if I lost my track season, I'd be upset. But like at the end of the day, I already made all the connections. I've grown as much as I want to grow. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah, imagine losing your first semester of college, which is
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
is relatively likely at this point for a lot
Yeah.
of people.
Like your
That's when
brother.
you make all your friends.
Yeah, like your
Yeah.
brother didn't lose it, but he like had a weird experience because he had to go to Australia because they had too many kids. Like
Well,
Yeah.
not that he lost it, but like he lost the traditional one where a lot of kids make dorm friends. You know, like he didn't have that direct experience.
well, he lost the first semester because he went to Australia,
Yep.
and then he lost the second semester because
Cut short,
he
yeah.
because of this. So
Yeah, they
realistically,
just
he
never
hasn't.
came back from spring
Yeah.
break. They just stayed at home.
Yeah.
That's true. I honestly forgot that. I literally forgot.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the quarantine. And I forgot that happened.
So
Yeah.
he's had half a semester on campus at Northeastern.
That's wild.
This year has been absurd. I mean, outside of the coronavirus and stuff like that, things happen this year
Yeah.
that we completely forget about.
The Australian fires.
The Australian bushfires. I mean, I don't necessarily forget about this, but this is like,
World War III.
yeah, World War III almost happened. Kobe Bryant died this year. Like it's
Yeah.
like things that are like major events that would have been defining features of previous years are now just like second to the coronavirus, which is extremely sad. But it's just it kind of puts in perspective how crazy this has really been, you know?
Yeah, and there's a lot of work that has to be done in order to try to right all the wrongs that have set like all these chain of events actually in place. I guess I'll go next. So I'm a teacher. So right now I'm teaching at home. I just teach in my my dining room. I have my little whiteboard, and
You don't go full stream room.
I do not. They don't get this. They get a blank red wall in the background, and they get my whiteboard. That's what they get.
Nice.
You know, guy can't mix business and pleasure. You know.
That is true.
So it's weird. So what I do is I teach 30 minutes of each class once a week. So what I mean by that is we have block scheduling. So we have 4 classes and we have A and B. So we have 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, and 1B, 2B, 3B, 4B. Of those classes I teach my 1A class for 30 minutes on Tuesday. That's it. I teach my 3A class for 30 minutes on Tuesday. Only time I teach those classes all week. I do the same thing for B Day, and I do that on Wednesday. So I'm only directly in front of kids required for 4 hours, or for 2 hours. And that's only because I'm a special ed teacher, so I push in. So I'm not the lead teacher for my other classes. I do work with those kids, but it's not like I'm not forced to be the lead teacher. But besides that, like we have office hours and we have a bunch of meetings that we have to attend. And it's so strange because you'll have kids who are like high participation. They'll be in the Google Meet. They'll do all the activities for the week. And then the next week they'll like won't do anything. And then the next week they won't do anything. Then they'll do like one half of an assignment. Then they'll be back. And it's just wild to know, like, so also in the county, this is a tidbit I think is really important. In the entire county, my school district, so my direct school is in the top 3 of most affected by the coronavirus. And I know of 2 students that I teach, and I only teach about 30 students total that had a direct family member pass away from it. So someone who lived in their house, doesn't have to be brother, but one was a grandmother and one, I do not know the relation, but someone who lived in the house passed away from it. One kid's 14, one kid's 16. Like, and they had someone who they lived with pass away.
Tough.
It's absolutely wild. So having all of those external factors, when I teach, I'm gonna be honest, I'm there and I'm like, oh, what's up, guys? And then we talk, and I say, does anyone have a question? They don't have a question, then we don't talk about math.
See you later.
No. We're there the whole time, but we don't talk about math. And then like every about 5 minutes, I say, hey, does anyone have a question about the warm up? No, we're good. All right, cool. Then let's keep talking about whatever, because the kids crave attention and talking to someone and normalcy. And I ask them, hey, do you have a question about it? Nope. All right, cool. Let's keep talking about, next season when you're gonna run for 1,000 yards, or let's talk about your girlfriend that just broke up with you, even though that I don't think that was a real relationship. I think you made that up. And so like,
she goes to a different school. You wouldn't know.
She goes to.
That's classic. That's a classic. But yeah, it's just so strange.
I have a question actually. So what's first thing I'll make a statement. I think that this is a crazy time for a high school student, like we've said many times here, because the mindset is even so different. They don't even have that's if you think back to like what our mindset was like in high school, even as like a senior in high school, you thought that like those were like social interactions. Those are
You
what
thought that was the peak of life.
that yeah, exactly. You were like this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
This is my status in the state that is as good as it gets. Like
Yeah.
this is where I stand. And now like the connections that these people were building or the idea that they had on like social life and everything like that is totally thrown off. So when you say like you see these people who they'll be in the Google Meet, they'll be submitting assignments all the time, like and then all of a sudden they start dropping off here and here. I mean that it sounds to me like they're experiencing some sort of depression. I mean, I'm not gonna do like some armchair psychology here, but
Yeah.
like if you think about it, the signs kind of show that. And I think that it means that they don't really it's going back to that mindset of like, oh, I have to do this now. It kind of brings them back to the whole idea like, oh, coronavirus caused this, and that's something that they don't really want to think about too much because it hurts them to think that it affected their life in that way.
Yeah, so like, I'm definitely not gonna diagnose or anything
exactly.
Anybody, not even just students. And I know you weren't either. I just wanted to disclaimer. But yeah, I think that's gonna be a common thing that, and I've read about this from like actual physicians and like people, but they said like the depression and or PTSD that could come from this is something that wouldn't have been seen, especially in younger people, since like older war times when young people would actually be sent to war by masses. Because you think about like when you're a senior, you close a book. That's what graduation, that's what all these events are. It closes a book, and then you have your summertime where you hang out with the people you want. They don't have the opportunity. They also might not have the opportunity to then start college or start the trade that they want to go to. So they're in this limbo where their previous book's not ended, but they can't start their next one. And I think that's the damage that may come. And I really hope, and I know there's a bunch of people doing a lot of great things and like pushing out a lot of great resources, whether it's like food or medical. And I know like the county, they have done a great job with outreach to help, especially for food and medical supplies. Amazing job, and I really appreciate them doing that. But that's something that like we won't know the effects until years after this is done.
100%, yeah.
Because like for me, I'm upset I'm not in school. You know, I love going to school, like I really do. I love working with the kids, and I didn't get to coach this year. So you know, like I thought we would be one of the best teams in the state. The entire state, I thought we'd be at least a top 5 team, and never get that opportunity to see, because like, and I have a lot of kids who are seniors that like don't get that opportunity to go out and try one last time, try to hang out with their friends one last time. It's wild.
Yeah, so that actually kind of bleeds into what my question was going to be that I follow with the statement, which was, what do you miss the most about going to school or going to your classrooms?
The thing I miss the most is the conversations we get after the work is done. And what I mean by that is the work could be academic or it could be athletic. And it's like when everyone buys into something,
right?
It's just amazing, whether it's in the classroom, because like classes have to like grow together. Like, yes, you can individually do it, but especially in high school, because high school is such a social growth stage. A lot of classes, I mean, there are kids that I can think of now that I was friends with in class, but not really anywhere else. But in class, we were chill. Like, we were good friends. But, like, and that's the thing that, like, when classes grow, especially the freshmen, when they come in from different feeder schools, like where we went to school, you came from the middle school to the high school. In the county here, you can pick the schools you go to. So our middle schools are coming from, you know, the average, at least every class has at least 4 middle schools. So you have kids from all these different places coming together, and now they're meeting each other for the first time. So they have to work and gel and be cool and be smart and not get in too much trouble, get enough trouble that they have a little bit of status, and all that's mixing together. And by the time that happens, you know, and we were really kicking it, then, you know, the coronavirus really hits the States. And I think once when I meant by the conversations of, we get our work done, we're on a flow, I'm teaching, the lessons getting done, and then we talk about random stuff because we're getting the job done. And the same thing with track. Like we get the meat of the workout done, we're working, we're grooving, and then we're just talking.
And then it becomes like more of a social interaction.
Yeah, and that's when I think, and that's what like I know when we were on the team, that's what groomed us to then take that next level. And I think that's the thing that these kids are gonna miss. That social interaction with kids they might not be cool with, but in that setting, yo, what's up, man? How you doing? You know?
Yeah.
I saw a meme the other day that it was like a text between some guy and his girlfriend. He was like, hey, so like after quarantine, do you think we can be like just friends? Because if the boys are throwing a party and you want me to hang out with you, I'm choosing them because we kind of have to make up for lost time.
That's fair though. That's actually fair.
Yeah. Like the exact sentiment that we're talking about.
Like, I wonder if that was a meme or like an actual conversation, because that could be an actual.
Like that actually happened. Yeah,
like that is a fact.
Multiple people probably.
Yeah.
Actually, that brings up something interesting too, because I think this really shows people who are important to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think it kind of shows because they're the people. Obviously, you live with not everyone, but some people live with their families. Yeah, so some people live with their family. Not everyone does. But the people that you reach out to or that like you actually genuinely miss being able to see them, those are the people that, you'll come out of this and be like, wow, I guess they were better friends or as good of friends as I actually thought they were. And it kind of helps you filter out the people that don't matter and do matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're it's like I don't want to call it like the same thing as when you graduate, because this is definitely not, but like after you graduate like high school, your circle gets small. Much smaller. Then you have to graduate college, and then your college circle, you're like, oh wait, okay, this is much smaller too. And like,
these are my friends as an adult.
Yeah, and I think that's happening again now. Obviously, I wish it wasn't happening, but it's again like you. And the one thing about that is like I don't want to be like, oh man, I didn't think of you or you didn't think of me. We can't be friends anymore. Yeah. Because there are some people. Because like
fun works both ways.
Yeah, so I think for me, it's you definitely realize more where your priority lies. And there's the people who do reach out and you're like, dang, like I appreciate that. Thank you. Like thank you for thinking of me and being concerned for me or hoping my well-being as well. Like I think that's just it's a really nice thing to get those messages or see a post like that. It's definitely uplifting.
Yeah. That and reaching out is one thing, but even just internally missing. Like I know with me, like I don't always reach out to everybody that I miss. Even prior to the coronavirus. I mean, I like there's people I miss a lot that I just never send a message to or that I never reach out and call them, but not because like I don't want to or that like I'm like, oh, what if they don't feel the same way? It's just like I know that they're on their mission, and I'm on my mission. And I know because I care about them that our paths will cross soon in the future. And I don't need to call them right now. I don't need to do that. And the same can go for here. I mean, I know that a lot of people will say like, oh, like if you didn't call me or text me during this time, like do you actually care about me? And it's like, no, like
it's a pandemic. What do you expect? Exactly. Like people have different worries.
And everybody's experiencing the way that this is affecting them very differently.
Agreed.
Like there are people who they could miss everybody right now and they just can't conjure up like the effort to
time for everyone.
They could be an essential worker. Their family member could be essential worker. They could know somebody who like there's so much that could weigh on them.
A prime example is I'm dating a nurse for the people who don't know this, but I'm dating a nurse, and when she goes to work, right? She works horrible hours. I mean, I guess not horrible, but she works the night shift, so it's like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And when she comes home, she's obviously off that schedule. But she's experiencing very traumatic experiences at work where she's seeing all this stuff happen that she's not used to seeing. And then it makes her not really want to get up and do anything or see anybody because she's just like, that was horrible. How can I just go from that to then normalcy?
Yeah.
Like,
how can I find joy when I just saw so much pain?
Yeah, exactly. And so there's people that are experiencing something like that, which is then like, you can't really judge them. They're experiencing things in a way that you'll never understand if you're not part of that world,
Agreed. Yeah, that's when you have to like sympathize with them. Like, because you don't feel their pain, but you can say, just try to understand that they are feeling a certain way for a reason. And, you're lucky. Like, I know I'm lucky I don't feel like how she's feeling. I'm lucky I don't have to witness that. But I can appreciate her, and I acknowledge that her feelings are real, and I think that's an important thing for those who are not experienced, like us. Us three are not directly in line with the coronavirus, but we have to respect and appreciate and validate those who are.
Yeah, and there's even if the three of us didn't talk for 2 weeks during all of this
that's
going
happened
on.
a lot just in the years we've known each other.
Yeah, exactly. Like we could go for any long amount of time without talking to each other, and then like if you're that good of friends with someone, when you come back and you do see them, it's not going to be any different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These two guys aren't even going to go to my wedding. Are you kidding me?
I'll be there in the chat.
Oh,
There's
man.
a reason why.
Yeah, classic canceling public ceremonies.
Big reason.
The one we're talking about.
Yeah, but we'll talk about that in about 2 weeks on the podcast.
So what about you, Connor? How is this affecting you directly?
For the most part, like I guess I can start with how everything was going when the shutdown started, because we had this whole stream of things going on at work where we were going to be demoing our technology for a big car company, and they right at the beginning implemented a travel ban, the company we were working with. So we were supposed to have someone come out to meet us to do the demo, but in the end they weren't allowed to. So we kind of had to collect the data, analyze it, do the presentations, all that remotely, which we would normally do in person. So when I was going to collect this data up at a site in Maine, which is 4+ hours away, the day that I was driving up there, I got about an hour into my drive, and one of my coworkers calls me and says, "Hey, shut it down, like head back right now," because one of our other coworkers, they thought they had been in close contact with someone that was having symptoms. So our CEO said, "Hey, we're all done. Everyone shut it down. We can't be like interacting closely with anything. We just need to make sure we have all our ducks in a row before we kind of continue on with our work."
Yeah. The cancellations have been really big. And I mean, that's an experience that you were going to be able to have to do, like, obviously for your company, not even just like a personal experience where it just was completely canceled and probably put your company back a little bit, you know?
Yeah. So I think eventually, once we had figured everything out, it was just kind of a little bit of a shock for everyone that day. Like, oh, okay, this is obviously getting pretty serious, and hitting a lot more close to home. The following week, it actually turned out that the person that this coworker thought was having symptoms was actually fine. They took a test, everything was good. So we did actually get to go up to Maine and do that testing, but it was under very, very strict conditions. One person in the car, sanitize everything, wear a mask and gloves, all of that, like the whole 9 yards. And then since then, we collected that data, put the car away, and for a month, we didn't do any testing. We were just analyzing data, kind of planning what the future is going to look like over the next couple months.
That's wild.
But so other than testing, physically collecting data in the vehicle, most of my job is just data analysis, some software development, that type of thing. So I have like a whole battle station going on here, probably similar to what Jeremy's working with right now.
True.
So I'm working great from home. I'm enjoying it. Like,
you know those awkward small talks.
Yeah. So like when I'm at work, I get asked a lot of questions. So no one's kind of like, I'm plugged into my computer and someone's like behind my computer waving at me like, "Hey," trying to get my attention. That used to happen a lot at work, but now I can kind of just keep chugging away with what I'm doing. So in the same way that what Ryan's talking about, I do feel like I've been a lot more productive on certain days. There are some days where, because I'm at home, I can get more distracted, but now I don't have to go back and forth from work. Granted, I work really close to where I live. Um, but it's just like that extra 30 to 45 minutes where I'd be walking back and forth kind of lightens up my day. I can just hop right out of bed, have a meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the best part. Like I do
Being able to
office
hop
hours
right
from
up.
8 to 9 a.m. So my office hours is I just have to be like responsive to my email, and if a kid wants to
Yeah.
set up a meeting, that's set up the day before though. But no kids set one up for the morning, so I'm literally I just lay in bed. I'm like
Yeah, they
waking
don't wanna
up.
get up.
Yeah, like I wake up and I'm like going through check my email. All right, I'm good, and I can just kind of chill in bed, go through social medias, kind of do what I normally do in the morning. And then for me, I turned off notifications for social media, so I don't check them
Yeah.
really until I'm done with the workday, unless I have like a large period of time. So it's honestly been nice for me. It's kind of relieved that because I've been forcibly being like I don't want to get distracted by social media, so I've been intentional about removing that. And honestly, like there are times I go like maybe not like too long, but maybe like a day and a half, and I'm like I should probably check because I probably get like Instagram DMs. I get so many of those, so I'm like I should probably check. So I go through and I'm like I have like 4 different groups or conversations going on. I was like I'm just gonna read through all of these. So like it's like a nice. There are not pros. I don't want to say pros to this. There are ways to make the most of the opportunity.
I think there are
No,
pros
I think
working
it's
from home.
safe.
Working from home. I'm talking about the coronavirus. I don't
But in
want to call
general,
it a pro.
Thinking of it as working from home, there are definitely pros.
Yes.
But on the whole, yes.
Yeah, that's why. I want to say because we are working from home in this context, not good. There are no pros. There are ways to make the most of it, but not a pro.
Yeah, making the most of it's the best way to phrase it. I mean, that I think is what we can only do in a period where there is not a lot of light. You know,
and especially us who are not in the field.
Exactly.
Like our job is to make the most of our lives, which help them do their jobs, and
exactly.
hopefully get this over with and get the vaccine out there and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And actually, to double down on something that you said, Connor, about like being able to work a little bit from home and then be able to do things like in between and stuff like that. I'm also working in software, so I have to run a lot of code. And sometimes when I'm running my code, it could take an hour, maybe 2 hours even. And there are times where I'll like even multi-thread my code, meaning that I'll run different codes at once. Like I'll run it on one like computer cluster or anything like that, and then I'll run it on my own computer, and then I have another cluster I can run on. But that's it. Like I can run it on those 3 things. So I'll spread myself thin and just like run 3 different codes, but then I can't really do much. Like I can maybe research a little bit, but if I've already done the research that I need to do and now I just need to get results, then there's all I can do is just like try to figure out other things to do. Where when I was in a lab, I had to just sit there. I would just sit there. I'd be like, okay, let me just wait for things to happen.
Yeah.
And now I can just take those hour or 2 hours and just go and do something else. Maybe work out.
Yeah.
Maybe go and make myself a lunch,
Yeah, I think that's the one thing is I've been getting back into Duolingo. And I'm really trying to learn Spanish. Like,
yeah.
And I have a really solid base. Honestly, I have a better one than I thought I did, but just really develop that more. I've been working out every day. Actually, I've worked out every day since Kobe Bryant died. But then because of quarantine, it made it a little easier because I'm at home and there's no reason not to. But actually every day since Kobe Bryant died because of I really like the mama mentality, and I was like, wow. So and not that all workouts were crazy, but I've worked out every day, and also like I've been eating way better. Because I've been intentional. It's not I need something quick, dude. You're home all day. Like, you have don't say, I need something quick. You've been home all day. You were lazy and didn't make sense. But that means
But then on the other end of that, it's harder to go to the grocery store. I guess you have a grocery store like right next door.
I only go every 3 weeks. I've only gone. I went the first day that school shut down, and I've only gone 1 day since, and it's been 8 weeks.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what I do is I buy a lot of frozen fruits and vegetables, not as good as fresh, but I also buy the fresh ones. So I go through all my fresh salads, carrots. I go through those first. I always when I buy carrots, I throw one in the freezer, and then I'll take it out, and that'll be my fresh carrot. I mean, they were fresh.
It's all the same.
Yeah, and then I get my 2 loaves of bread. I throw one in the freezer. I have one in the fridge, so it still goes slower. I buy a bunch of yogurt. The thing is like milk. I use my milk up, and then I'm like, all right, now I don't have milk for, maybe between 5 and 7 days. Nothing crazy. I can survive without cereal for that long. I don't drink coffee, so that helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been very intentional about not going out and being smart.
Running out of food.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good on your part, Jeremy.
I'm trying to be really smart with it because, every time you go out, it's a risk. There are calculated risks, and it's all about what risk are you willing to take. How, I go to the store. I don't know anybody at the store, so I want to make sure, I have my hand sanitizer, I have my wipes, I have my mask. But I come back, I throw everything in the wash, I go in the shower. Still a risk. So it's all about minimizing and controlling as much factors as you can.
Yeah, you have more fridge space than I do, though.
Oh, 100%.
One
100%.
fridge for one person. I have one fridge for 3 people.
Yes, I definitely agree with you there that I do have more of a luxury with that.
Need to do better about buying more when I go to the store, because I'll buy enough for a week.
That was me until Corona happened.
That's a limitation though, because of some of this. Like, for example, in my situation where we have 7 people in the house.
Yeah.
We only are allowed to buy a certain amount because they don't want people obviously hoarding a bunch of stuff. So they don't realize that my mom or whoever's going to the supermarket is there to buy for 7 people, So sometimes I would actually say now we come back with less food than we used to come back with, which is, I guess, good and bad. But I think that we run out of food quicker in this house because of that. You're giving less food to people who were used to eating a lot more, or that you're getting, let's say it serves 5 people for 7 people,
Yeah. All in all, I don't think it's a bad thing though.
Yeah.
Because because you're in a situation, I'm in a situation where I have the financial freedom to stockpile if I wanted to. Yeah. But there are people who can't stockpile because they need to get their paid on Friday, so they can't buy till Friday. If it's Wednesday, we could go and hurt their family worse than us having a little bit of a less of a portion versus them not eating it at all. So but I totally understand your situation though.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I actually agree with that too, because I think that it's not a hindrance on us, but it is the thing that causes us to go to the supermarket more often than I guess we would like, and that I think is the thing.
I think that's totally fair.
Yeah.
I think that's totally fair.
But I think that is better, having just your mom go and maybe not be able to get as much as she needs to get, rather than having 4 people go to the store all at the same time, and then they see, oh, these people have more, they have more family to deal with. But just having 4 members of your family in that situation now is maybe not a good trade-off.
That's true. It kind of reduces the options. Because I'm assuming your mom or your dad, whoever goes by themselves, right? You probably don't go as a group. Yeah. Maybe I'll tag along. You don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I would say that it's between 1 or 2 people that go based on what type of shopping needs to get done. If it's just okay, we gotta just get food real quick because we don't have a lot of time right now. Everyone's really busy, but we just need to get food real quick. My mom will just go. But then if it's all right, it's a little bit more time now. Everyone's a little bit more open. One person will go with my mom. They'll go for a big shop that'll last us a week or a week and a half, and then that will have another person just so that they're there to try to help them think through it. You know what I mean? But other than that, that's it. But if you have the whole family went, which that could happen at times before this, I mean, then you're 6-7 times more likely to get it because you're spread out. Yeah.
Touching things, and even if you're asymptomatic, you touch a thing, you could now cause someone else to get sick.
Could be anything.
Yeah, there's so many things that could go wrong.
Touching things.
Just the stuff and the things. No, we're not getting regular Oreos. We're getting double stuffed.
Carl. Stuff and things.
But I think we can all agree that it's affected us all, and we are the fortunate ones in this.
100% agree.
We are the not, I wouldn't say the most fortunate, but in the fortunate category, and it's even affected us negatively. And so we can only imagine how this affects people who are less fortunate or in the worst case scenarios.
I would say the negative factors for us are nowhere near as bad as because I know the worst factor for me is I had to postpone my wedding a whole year. Had canceled public ceremony. And And like, my fiance now does not get to have her graduation for her doctorate. It's gonna be online, and like I don't get to see my kids graduate. So like, but like pushing back a wedding a whole year. Like been planning this day for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Like June 2020. That's been a thing we've said for like over 2 years. And
yeah, I feel very lucky that like we really hadn't done any planning. My sister was supposed to get married in August. And like they're still really unsure whether that's gonna happen. It's probably not.
Yeah. And if that's the worst thing that happens to me, I'm grateful. If that's the worst thing that happens to me and the people I love, I am so grateful that it's just, we had to change the event of a party. We're still getting married. Like, we're still getting married June 27th. It's just we just had to change the party date. I'm okay with that. And I think that's something that, like, I always need to remember. Like, just because I'm good now doesn't mean I should go and, when I was driving today, I saw people outside a shaved ice place. It's like an ice cream shop, but it's for shaved ice. People waiting, and they all have masks on. I'm like, so you need a mask on, but you're gonna wait in line for shaved ice? I was like, people,
you don't need that.
I was literally like, it hurt my heart that people would be like, I need a mask, but I'm still gonna go and get shaved ice. And yes, that's a business. I get that, but you're not helping anybody. You're putting the community at large at risk for it. And I literally saw that and I was like, wow. And that's a risk like I'm not willing to take.
Yeah. And even if that was something that you wanted, which I think is still absurd.
Oh, I love ice cream.
If that's something that if you wanted that, there's even better ways to handle it than standing in line and waiting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you can make your own shaved ice at home.
Yeah, like there are things that I've like had to sacrifice. It's not like they're hard sacrifices. Oh man, you ran out of ice cream, can't go to the store. Dang it. Like, it's not a hard sacrifice. It's like, hey, you know what? Is it worth potentially sending someone or even making someone uncomfortable? Because I live in the development I live in, a lot of old people. A lot of old people. If I go to the store, which the store is like literally I can almost touch it, there's also a lot of old people because it's right there. I don't want to make them uncomfortable. Like, even me going, that's why I only go when I need to. I don't want to put myself at risk. I don't want to put them at risk. Don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, uneasy. There's just no need for that.
You don't want to create an awkward environment.
Yeah, there's no need for that to get some ice cream. So that's why
every interaction that you have when you go to the store, it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
Because everyone is in the same like kind of heightened stress state that like if they get even a little bit too close to you, you're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone thought the classic was uncomfortable, but now
you can't see their mouth.
Yeah, now like you literally just don't even look at people. You try to walk. I don't walk down aisle if I see someone, unless I need the aisle. I'll walk past somebody, but if it's an elderly person, I don't walk down the aisle. I like just because, even if they don't care, I don't want to potentially make them uncomfortable. So I'll just wait. I'll just go to the section that has nobody in it, kind of wait there for a few minutes, walk around, go there. Because for me, I only go every 3 weeks. So if I spend an extra 20 minutes just standing in a spot waiting for the people, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Also, what's 20 minutes versus somebody's life? You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's what it does. It's definitely, I think it's taken people and put more of a perspective on what is important. Obviously, we talked about, like Ryan, you brought up like the connections you have and how you feel for people, but also just like, ice cream is not more important than making someone uncomfortable or potentially getting them sick.
Yes. It's priorities. I think that people have a hard time understanding the consequences of their actions and understanding how to prioritize different things at different points in their life. And
there is something that I heard, and I think this goes with kind of what we were all just talking about, that, everyone has the right. You live in America, you have rights. And it's like, again, we are blessed that we were born in America. I agree with that. We are surrounded by water, so like it really has helped us in all types of interactions with other countries. But this guy was saying that everyone is complaining that their rights are being infringed on, but they're also not realizing that when you have rights, you have responsibilities. And if you want your rights, you must be responsible to uphold those in a proper way. And I think I'm going to say, I think people are not upholding the responsibility part that comes with their rights. I think that's fair, because even if you just take people from the most accredited institution when it comes to public health, all the way down to people who literally are working at doctor's office, urgent care hospitals, they are all in the same boat. Like 99% was saying, "Yo, just stay home.
Hey,
Like, just
do
make
what
our lives easier. Let's
Yeah.
reduce the amount of impact that can have." And that's the responsibility that comes with the rights. That I think people see rights, but not responsibility. If you are not responsible, it's just
Yeah.
like law. If you do something, you're responsible for your actions, and it gets your rights get taken away. You know, like you lose the right to vote. You can lose that if you have a felony, and all these other things. And I don't think people understand the personal responsibility that comes with freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and all those things that we've been seeing in the last few weeks.
I mean, even think about like when you're not this, but like let's take a kindergarten teacher or like an elementary school teacher. A lot of time they give them a little bit of leeway, like they give them a little bit of freedom to do things. And as soon as like people start doing things that yeah they had the right to do that because the teacher wasn't saying don't do that necessarily, and you just do something wrong, then they start taking that away because they're like now you're abusing something that you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah,
Like even though you had the right to do it because I didn't say you shouldn't do that, you knew that you shouldn't have
yeah,
done that.
and the thing is, you are not responsible enough for doing that, and
Exactly.
I think that's a key thing that people of all ages struggle, and a lot of people. Again, I probably at times have done this and will continue to do this. As an adult, I think I know the best way. Well, I'm also an adult. I mean, now I've lived through some kind of crazy times, but some adults haven't lived through a lot of crazy events in their lives that directly impacted them. And so they might not know how to handle that situation, or they might think I have the right to do this, so I should do this. Not I have the responsibility. And that's a thing. I've told some of my kids this too, and I always say, like, remember, you have a responsibility for yourself, for the school community, for your family to be the best you can be, and that doesn't just mean academically. Be the best person you can be.
And I think you alluded to something there that is so strong, which is that no matter how old you are and no matter how much experience you've gone through, you're not going to always know what's best. You're not going to always know what the right thing to do is. But I do think that even if you don't know what the right thing to do is, you just stick to compassion and you stick to sympathy. Try to make the decision that makes you as compassionate or sympathetic as possible. And all you can do from there is if let's say it wasn't the right thing, you can say, at least I tried to be compassionate. At least I tried to be sympathetic.
Intentions.
And if I did something wrong, I am sincerely sorry because I did not mean that. And I think that right there is the approach to take. Yeah. And that's the way to be responsible about it. But there's too many people who think that their thought process is correct and that their decision making is correct. And you don't know all the information. You can't make an educated decision.
And that's what I hope coming out of quarantine.
Some people are trying to make educated decisions, though.
I know. And that's the one thing. It's like
mostly self-interest.
Like I don't tell you how to do your job. So I am also not going to tell these guys who have spent their entire life working on this how to do their job. So like I'm going to let those scientists and all those people who work in all these amazing fields and difficult fields that they have been able to, overcome so much. I'm going to let them do their thing, and I'm going to follow their instructions. Cuz same reason, hey, all these parents now are teachers, and they're all realizing it's a little harder than they thought.
Yeah.
So other people's jobs, you have to respect them. And if that's their jobs to be the leaders in this virus world, we have to respect the WHO. We have to respect major health organizations.
Yes. And you say, when talking about leaders, the strongest thing there is you would be more of a follower to not know what leaders to follow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you don't, you're a better leader knowing when you should follow than being somebody who is purposely not following just because they don't want to be quote unquote a follower. Where as I see that leaders can follow other leaders and they're still leaders themselves.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that.
On a slightly lighter note, just to shake it up while I've been in quarantine, I've been bike riding more. So I have a pretty nice bike. I'll go for maybe 15, 20 miles every few days, just because it's a nice kind of solitary activity that you don't really need to have anyone else involved in.
Yeah.
And it's obviously we're all used to running, but even sometimes that gets old sometimes. And I feel like biking with a mask is a lot easier to do than running with a mask.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I'm really enjoying doing is every Saturday for the last, I think, 5 weeks now, I've gone to the ocean and jumped in for maybe a couple minutes. It's absolutely frigid. The water's like 40 degrees, but it it breaks up your entire week and it like really lifts your mood.
Makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of the let's all end with a positive thing. For me, I cleaned my porch and I check emails during the second half of the day on the porch. And it's so small, but I never sat on my porch. I've never sat on my porch since I've lived here.
Yeah.
And I cleaned it up and I sit and it's the sun's out and the air because now I appreciate it so much more because I don't have school, I don't practice after.
Yeah.
Anything that like you're inside all the time now.
Yeah.
So like anything that gets you outside or like in a different, maybe uncomfortable situation, maybe just like outside enjoying things, it just breaks it up. That's what I like to see.
Yeah. Ryan, what about you?
I'd say the positive thing is, even though it's like, I guess kind of small, is that I get to hang out with my dogs. I know that it's like, something small here, but they have a short life, and when I was up in Buffalo, I didn't know like how often I'd get to see them, and now I get to my one dog sits on a chair that I have right over here all day long. She just sits here and stares out the window, and so she'll come over and like I'll pet her a little bit during the day, and I really like that. I'm like I get this bonding experience that I didn't get to have while I was away.
I 100% agree with that. I think that was a good episode. We talked about a lot. We started to dive into a little things too. We started to get a little frisky.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yeah. There's a lot to talk about now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, we are not the experts in a lot of the fields we talked about. So I know I'm speaking for them, but I know they agree with me. Yeah. Trust the experts. There's a reason they are the experts. But I think that about wraps it up. Ryan, give us a 15-second rundown of College Versus. Ready?
Yes.
Go.
All right, so College Versus is a competitive social media app to show who's got the best who's got the best parties, the best sports, the best dorms, and it's currently on the rise. I think that everyone should go to the link below, download it, and make an account and make a post.
And they just had a fresh new update, which is pretty poggers. So you should go check it out. But again, that wraps up this episode. Again, the next 2 weeks episodes, I gotta say, are pretty special to us in different ways. But I think they're very unique and very special to just who we are as people. Either way, guys, we are out.
See ya.
Peace. Enjoy yourselves.